Hello everyone, my name's Richard Watson and this is Anglais the Easy Way. And today I'd like to talk about a novel called The Fifth Sacred Thing. The Fifth Sacred Thing is a novel by an author called Starhawk, which is a curious name, and I'll come to that a bit later. It was published in 1993, and it's a novel of speculative fiction, which is a curious concept, but it's a mixture of fantasy with a little bit of magic, spirituality, and social commentary. So first thing is, it's a huge book. It's nearly 700 pages, if I remember correctly, and it's about a war that has been ravaged by war, and now the environment has been degraded. The story is set in a post-apocalyptic future, primarily a dystopian California, and it explores themes of environmentalism, community, and the struggle between forces of oppression and freedom. Basically, we have one very tolerant, very open community, which takes care of the environment and which is extremely peaceful, and it's going to be invaded by a neighboring culture, or a neighboring city in this case, which is much more aggressive and militaristic. The people in the San Francisco community have a kind of an earth-based spirituality, talking about interconnectedness of life and the importance of sacred elements, which are earth, air, fire, and water. And the last one, and the name of the book, is spirit, or consciousness, the last sacred thing. So the main themes that come up in this book: ecology and sustainability. It talks about living in harmony with nature and the dangers of environmental degradation. It talks about spirituality. There's a strong theme of feminism in this film. A lot of the leaders in the community, maybe all of them, are women, I think by design, not by accident. And it talks about resistance and activism, especially the conflict of these two cultures. So this book invites you to imagine different alternative ways of living and to consider the impact of your choices on the world around you. It's a very new age kind of novel, and it won't correspond to your typical idea of a fantasy novel, which is like a hero swinging a sword around, but it's very intelligent. It's full of hope, and it gives you a sense of what a community could actually become if people really took part in that community. It imagines a world where people really care about the environment because they need to. It's a very tolerant, sharing, non-violent society, as I say, which comes face to face with an aggressive military autocratic one. It talks about the madness of destructive societies, the war machine, castes or classes, rich and poor, power structures. It kind of shows how we take all the marvels of our modern age for granted, how not sharing becomes laziness, where we just have to look after ourselves and not the community. And there's a kind of a sadness for the resources that we wasted. She creates a society based on sharing and kindness, tolerance and looking after each other. And she shows that being peaceful and tolerant is not a sign of weakness. People work hard, and they do work that's good for everyone, including the environment and replanting forests. It shows the darkness that can lie at the heart of a greedy, destructive society. Reading the part where the South invades this community is pretty tense. There's quite a bit of unpleasantness, but it's not particularly violent. It's just a feeling of tightness and bitterness and hopelessness while you sit and wait and hope that a peaceful community, a non-violent community, can somehow resist a ruthless military regime. And even in our own world, it actually invites you to consider if that's possible. What might strike you the hardest is the unfairness and the wastefulness of the way some cultures work. I can't think of a better way to show the difference between those two types of cultures than the way it's done in this book. There's lots of incredibly interesting ideas about the way the culture is set up. This is speculative fiction in its purest sense, and it kind of leaves you nostalgic for this culture which we don't even have, but then also makes you appreciate the way things are today when you come out of the book. Even the way they do magic is kind of cool. It's not like Harry Potter stuff. And I think that's because the writer, whose name is Starhawk, is actually a practicing witch, I believe. Listen, I'm going to leave it there. If you want a little challenge, go back and listen to this again and look how many words I use that end in ness, like sadness, unhappiness, unfairness. Go and have a look. Anyway, I'll leave it there. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.